Hey, good optometry morning. So take a look at this right here. This child's vision is getting worse. And the question isn't, what can we do about it? The question is, why are we waiting? So one of the most common things we see in kids as eye doctors is nearsightedness, or something called myopia. And that's basically when kids have trouble seeing things far away, seeing the front of the classroom. And it's becoming so common in kids that we don't even think about it anymore. So it used to be that kids having glasses was unusual. In fact, it was so unusual that you used to get teased as a kid if you got glasses. But that's not anymore. Take a look at your kid's classroom photo. Look how many kids are wearing glasses compared to when you were a kid. And in fact, it's so common that many of us eye doctors aren't even shocked by it anymore. We're thinking, you're nearsighted, just get a pair of glasses, no big deal. That's pretty common. But here's the thing, if your child is nearsightedness, there's something that you can do to slow it down, and your doctor may not be telling you about that. So let's take a look at this child right here. So she first came to see me when she was 6 years old, and we checked her vision. She was seeing the 20/20 line. We checked if she needed any glasses. She had no prescription. Her prescription was 0. We measured something a little bit unique in her eye. We measured the axial length. So axial length is physically how long your eyeball is. And it's a really simple measurement to do if your doctor has the test. And the great thing about axial length, it can be a key predictor about if your child's going to become nearsighted and what risk they are for becoming highly myopic or highly nearsighted. And so we can look to see what percentile your child is on axial length, much like is done when you go see your pediatrician and they measure your height and you see what percentile your child is. So unlike height, where we like our kids to be in the top percentile, axial length, you want your kids in the bottom percentile because that means that the least amount of risk for becoming nearsighted. Basically, the shorter the eyeball is, the less risk for nearsightedness. So we measured the axial length in this child, and she fell right on the 50th percentile, which was great news because that's actually a pretty low risk for her to become myopic in the future. And so we said, not an issue, you don't need glasses, but let's take a look in a year. So she came back in a year, we measured her vision, she was still seeing the 20/20 line. However, her eyeball had grown a little bit longer, which we expected to do, and she started to become a little bit nearsighted. I was only measuring minus 0.25, which is the lowest prescription we can measure. Still not enough that we would typically need glasses to help you see clearer. And we said, okay, things are changing. We need to keep watching this, but still a pretty low risk. So we said, let's watch for another year. This time she came back a year later. Her eyeball was continuing to grow at the same rate. However, her prescription now was also increasing as well. Now we were measuring minus 0.5 in one eye and minus 0.75 in the other eye, which is still a super low prescription. And she's still seeing almost a 20/20 line. But that's enough that people will start to notice. And we said, hey, there looks like there's a trend of her becoming more and more nearsighted. And we talked to mom and dad about what can we do to slow this down. And we said, hey, there's special eyeglasses that have very unique and special technology in it. And this particular lens that we had recommended was called the MyoSmart lens by Hoya. And we said, let's get her in this lens because this is designed to help slow down the growth of the eye and maybe stop the eye from changing. And so we prescribed that lens for her and we said, we want you to wear this lens all day long. And we're going to follow you very, very closely. And let's see you in about 3 months. And so we had her back in the 3 months, measured her prescription, had not changed at all. And then we measured the axial length. Take a look at this. Axial length had flattened out, no longer was growing. We said, oh, that's pretty good. But we're wondering if that trend was going to continue. So let's see you back in 3 months. Continue wearing glasses full time. And so she came back 6 months after getting her MyoSmart spectacle lenses, and prescription still had not changed at all. And look at the axial length, flattened out completely, no more growth in the past 6 months. We said, okay, great news. But let's see what happens in about 6 months. So she came back 6 months later. This is 1 year after getting fitted with the MyoSmart spectacle lens to help slow down her myopia. And what happened to the prescription? Prescription did not change over that entire year. And her axial length had not changed, flattened out completely in that year. So this is a great case example of the success of the MyoSmart myopia management spectacle lens, which works really, really well to slow down the growth of the eye. Now, the real question is, what if we would have put her in some type of myopia management control option a year before we actually did? If we had, we may have stopped her prescription at about minus 0.25, which is like hardly any prescription, compared to about minus 0.75, which is actually a little bit of a prescription that you could notice. if we would have acted a little bit sooner, we may have even had a better outcome. So the thing you want to think about is if your child even has the hint of myopia or any risk factors for developing myopia, you want to act quickly and do some myopia management while you can, because the changes that occur, you can't get back. And with that, have a great optometry day.